there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting dodo birds and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Go ahead, smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. We are continuing today our Summer Shootaround Series that we're going to be doing over a span of a few weeks. I'm sure you know by now. We're going through the top 10 of the top 25 and one as it's currently constructed. We're doing the schools in the order that they are ranked. So we've already done number 1, Kansas, number 2, Alabama, number 3, Houston, number 4, North Carolina, and number 5, UConn. Now we're turning our attention to number 6, Iowa State. The Cyclones, they finished 29-8 overall, 13-5 in the Big 12 last season, finished second in the Big 12 standings. They were 2 games behind Houston, 2 games ahead of Baylor. Iowa State won the Big 12 tournament, got a 2 seed the NCAA tournament, beat South Dakota State and Washington State to advance to the second weekend of the 68-team event, then lost to Illinois 72-69 in the Sweet 16, finished 5th at BartTorvik.com, 8th at KenPom. From that team, 3 of the top 7 scorers are gone, but the top 4 scorers are back, including Keshawn Gilbert and Taman Lipsey. Again, I've got Iowa State ranked 6th in the top 25 and 1. We're going to see what Norlander thinks about that next. But first, let's get a word from our partners. Okay, Norlander, Iowa State as a preseason top 6 team, do you rebuke it or can you rally around it?
All right.
Do you rebuke it or can you rally around it?
There we go. I'm all for the alliteration and less horniness on this episode, so I appreciate that. So
it's early. It's early.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like you might have gotten that out of your system. So anyway, I would be more likely to slightly rebuke it.
Oh, God.
Slightly. And
Who do you believe in?
Listen.
Okay,
listen.
You listen. You don't believe in Dan Hurley. You don't believe in DJ Otzelberger. Who do you believe in?
I knew this
Ever
was
since Jay Wright retired, you don't believe in nobody no more.
That's not true. However, you've got Iowa State 6, which is a great moment for Iowa State fans and for Cyclones fans that are tuning into this and in the middle of August here and getting hyped about a program, getting plenty of preseason run, more than they've had recently. We're here to hype up your team, and that's deserved. I am curious if this team might have a little bit of regression next season. Now, this was the number 1 defense in the country last season, and TJ Otzelberger has done an outstanding job. I do think Iowa State's going to be pretty dang good again. I'm a little hesitant to say that they're going to be a top 10 team as I was, prepping for this episode and continuing to do some preseason work on when I eventually do my top 101 teams. I think I'll be more likely to put Iowa State somewhere in that 10 to 15 bucket than the 5 to 9. That's all. So it's not a huge difference. It's not a huge gap. So it's a slight rebuke. However, in keeping with the theme of the shoot around, GP, you are going aggressively in on some teams that I don't feel like are super, super trendy. Now I didn't check where they are in off-season / preseason Torvik rankings, so you can inform the audience of that in just a second here. But I did want to bring this up and then kind of take it where you want to go. TJ Otzelberger, heading into year 4 right now, he's done a pretty outstanding job here through 3 seasons at Iowa State. Now, if you're an ISU fan, you're generally aware of this, but if you listen to all the episodes and it's not in front of mind, just here's a quick reminder. So Otzelberger was regarded for a while as like a pretty damn good assistant coach. And then he gets his opportunity at South Dakota State. He gets to 2 NCAA tournaments there. That was during the mid 2010s. He goes to UNLV. It doesn't really work. Not a great fit. And then he gets an opportunity kind of in the cover of darkness, although the connections were obvious there with Jamie Pollard, the AD, to be able to replace Steve Prohm at Iowa State. And he, lo and behold, gets that job. And since then, he's taken the Cyclones to the tournament every single year. they've gotten better every single year. They were an 11 seed, then they were a 6 seed in this past season. Of course, they were a 2 seed, and they made the Sweet 16. They made the Sweet 16 his first year as well. And record-wise, he's done a pretty dang good job. Last year was obviously the best of it all. But when you look at that year that he was hired, 2021, as we've mentioned in recent Summer Shootaround episodes, we're in the middle of we're just about wrapped up at this point, our Candid Coaches series, and we ask the question every single year, what was the best high major coaching hire? And when we asked this question in 2021, I went back and looked. I'm not going to trivia time you here, but 2021 was the year that Shaka Smart went to Marquette, Wes Miller went to Cincinnati, Porter Moser went to Oklahoma, Chris Beard went to Texas and all that. So we asked,
that was the one that got the most votes right there.
Beard won that poll that year by 61% of the vote and going to Texas. Shaka was 2, Moser was 3, Miller was 4, Craig Smith to Utah was 5. I'm looking at this. Others receiving votes. Tommy Lloyd, naturally, but he was too low in the poll. Hubert Davis, arguably could be too low. Mike Woodson, Ben Johnson, who went to Minnesota, Tim Miles, Earl Grant, and Pat Kelsey. So I guess we got a few votes in there for non-high majors, or I think this might have been the last year we asked who was the best coaching hire. It just naturally 90% of the votes would go to high majors. And I think in 22, we started just switching that. Let's just let them pick only from high majors because there's different qualifications for different jobs. The point is this: TJ Otzelberger did not get a single vote by any of the 100 to 105 to 110 coaches we polled that summer. And in retrospect, he should clearly be unequivocally in the top 4. And if you want to put him at 2 or 3 or somewhere in that realm, maybe even number 1, there's certainly a case to be made. So just a reminder to those listening to this, and then we'll take in our Candid Coaches later this month when that question comes out. Sometimes the best, second best, third best hire might not be in the top 7 or 8 responses there. I thought that to be interesting in retrospect because Otzelberger's done an amazing job there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you even went that direction because as I was doing the same thing last night, I did the same thing. Okay. And like, you ready for this? He might be the best coach in Iowa State history.
3 years in?
He's on the path.
Okay.
If you Google who is the best men's basketball coach in Iowa State history, like AI, Johnny Orr is going to come up first, right?
Yes.
Which I respect, and I'm not here to argue. I'm just here to present, I'll just give you some facts. So Johnny Orr was the coach at Iowa State for 14 years. I believe he went to 1 Sweet 16. TJ's already been to 2 at Iowa State. If you start looking at winning percentages, that kind of thing, it's Tim Floyd pops up. He was 81-47 in 4 seasons at Iowa State. That's a .633. He went to 1 Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm.
TJ already's been to 2 Sweet 16s, and he's got a better winning percentage right now, .667. Fred was amazing at Iowa State, obviously. He was there for 5 years, 1 Sweet 16.
Oh, he only went to 1. Okay.
Yeah. TJ's been to 2. I'm not here to plant flags, but it's kind of interesting that you can already reasonably say that this guy, who our Candid Coaches series shows was not some celebrated hire, and that's because he was really good at South Dakota State, and then the UNLV years, I think it was 2. They just weren't. It never happened. It just didn't pop. But it wasn't celebrated. But this guy might really be. I don't think might. He definitely is on a course. I mean, he's already done more Sweet 16s than Hoiberg, than Orr, and he's got a preseason top 10 team. I mean, it's, if you don't like the top 25 and 1, I don't mean you, but whatever, they're 3rd at Torvik. 3rd heading into the
3rd.
Yeah.
3rd. My gosh.
They're plus 3,000 to win the NCAA tournament in the betting markets. That puts them 10th behind Kansas, Duke, UConn, Alabama, Houston, Baylor, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Auburn. So, however you cut it up, they're a preseason top 10 team. He's already been to 2 Sweet 16s. He's got a preseason top 10 team. He is on path to maybe retire someday as the best coach in Iowa State history.
How about that? That's good stuff. Yeah, if you're an ISU fan, you got to be thrilled because you never say never with any of these guys, but this is a fit in a lot of ways. And I've talked to TJ about this. I'm sure you have as well, because he's ready, willing, and wanting to talk about it. This is the job that he truly sees himself being able to settle into for the absolute long haul. Like if it really does work here, the Iowa State fans, they could have their guy here for 15 plus years if all goes well here. And you can't
Because
predict the future.
Part of it, his wife is an Iowa State alum. Like his wife is an Iowa State star, I believe. Allison is still the highest WNBA draft pick in Iowa State women's basketball history. She was selected 10th in the 2010 draft. So like they've got real ties there.
Big time ties. And look at ISU. I believe this is our first summer shoot around we've done on the Cyclones. I believe that's the case. So that being said, into the roster we go. GP's got them right there knocking on the door of the top 5. They're top 3 at Torvik, which would seem to indicate they're likely to be top 10 when Ken Palm releases his preseason rankings come October. The voters will likely follow suit, and this team is going to be ranked preseason top 10 in the AP top 25. They lost Trey King, who averaged 9 a game. Robert Jones averaged 7 and change. Hasten Ward, who averaged 6, and that was pretty much it. Omaha Billieu, who was a McDonald's All-American, who was a freshman last season, it just didn't work there. So he transferred out, but he wasn't an impact player. He could be someone that maybe gets second life as he starts his career anew elsewhere. But they do get Keyshawn Gilbert back, Taman Lipsey, who is a key player. And would we say it's fair to describe him as a dark horse All-American? Because I think he might be too good. Although because it's Iowa State and there's not a lot of name recognition, I guess, with the way that their style is. I wouldn't say he's personally a dark horse, but maybe for a national audience is. Taman Lipsey can absolutely be an All-American guard this upcoming season. He is the most important returnee. Curtis Jones is also back. Between Gilbert, Lipsey, and Jones, they combined to average almost 36 a game. And then Milan Momcilovic averaged 11 as well. So 4 double-digit scores of importance are returning. Momcilovic could be... Again, I kind of define breakout players. You got to average single digits. It's just a line of delineation that I draw. So maybe he doesn't qualify for that, but maybe he's set up to be something of a star as well. And that's why I'm very in on Iowa State's chances to again be in that 2 seed, 3 seed, maybe 4 seed at worst conversation. The transfers are not big time names. I think Iowa State is kind of acknowledged, and although it's improved its NIL situation like a lot of others, and within the Big 12, it's not in the top third when it comes to NIL, so it's probably not going to draw in the biggest absolute names there. Nate Heiss from Northern Iowa transfers in state, averaged 13.5 a game. Deshaun Jackson averaged 11 and change at Charlotte. Joshua Jefferson was a 10-point a game guy at St. Mary's, and then Brandon Chatfield was 9 and change at Seattle. So we'll see how those pieces wind up working there. The returning core is pretty good. I do like the roster overall, but when I was looking at it and comparing to the teams that we've talked about, looked at the rest of your top 10, I thought, okay, they were a great defensive team. Offensively, they were solid, and they got the job done in Big 12 play. There's no doubt about it. I saw this team lose in person in the Sweet 16 in Boston to Illinois, and I remember talking with TJ afterward, and the loss stung, but man, he was so impressed on balance. Like in that moment, he kind of reflected on what they've been able to accomplish that past season. I think they can come close, but I do think there might be a slight regression to the mean. I think the one exception to this is if Lipsey does wind up performing GP beyond even what I'm suggesting here, and does he become like truly a top like 2-point guard, 2-way kind of guy in the country there. If that happens, then I think all bets are off, and where you've got him here can become a real possibility.
I mean, they could regress just because, like, it's hard not to. They were, one of the top 8 teams in the country. They got a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. I guess if you were just like betting, you'd probably bet the under on that. But they do return the top 4 scorers from a team that did that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were called Duke or North Carolina or Kansas, we wouldn't even be debating it. That you return the top 4 scorers from a team that did everything that team did last season, you're going to be right here. I think it's more sensible to have them in the top 5 than it is to have them outside of the top 10.
Okay.
Even if I've got them 6 heading into it. And you mentioned Lipsey. Like, yes, he could be an All-American National Player of the Year type guy. So could Gilbert. And like you noted, that they bring back 4 double-digit scores. Momcilovic is a guy who was a borderline top 40 prospect in his high school class, but wasn't the most celebrated prospect in Iowa State's incoming class. But he was so clearly the best freshman. They not only get him to pop in year 1, but they bring him back for year 2. I know that they don't go out and they don't score 90, and it's not up and down and high flying and whatever, but just consistently last season, in that Big 12, it's hard not to go on losing streaks and have bad 2-week stretches, and they largely avoided that. I think this is one of the safer preseason top 10 picks. Even if you're talking about Duke, you're still talking about a lot of unknowns. Like I think Cooper Flagg's going to be great, but we ain't seen him do it yet. These guys, they've got 4 guys back who have scored in double digits and been really important, impactful players for a team that won the best conference tournament there is to win, and advanced to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament and got a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like I don't know if they'll win a national championship, but I'd be shocked if they're not really good again.
I agree, and some of this is also the Big 12 and the competition at the top there. We've talked about Houston, we've talked about Kansas. You're going to have Arizona in the mix when it comes to the Big 12. They're going to be a factor. Baylor, obviously. Maybe Texas Tech can be nearly as good as last season. Obviously, ISU was better than Texas Tech, and I would expect that to be the case again. But some of this is just going into a 16-team league and what's going to emerge from that as well. So when we talk about the context of where we think Iowa State can be, I think that's also an important piece of context to keep at front of mind here. Let's talk real quick on the schedule. This is where ISU fans, if you're kind of scratching your head a little bit like Norlander, really don't think we can be like top 6. No, I think you got a chance. I just think that, putting you maybe more likely, 11 or 12 overall. That's no huge slight. Let's be clear on this. And if I told you 12 months ago, hey, here's the deal. You're going to have a top 12 level team 2 seasons in a row. Would you take it? You absolutely would. What I am going to defend ISU with is the scheduling stuff here, because I think Iowa State, more than any other team, became the subject of scorn and the school that was pointed out either directly or indirectly by not just fans, but coaches and ACC coaches about how it went about scheduling last season, when they absolutely loaded up on quad 4 level or low quad 3 level opponents in the non-con, and they just didn't have a lot of pop there. But the thing is, they actually outperformed to that schedule, and they wound up playing well in the Big 12 anyway. And there's some of that again this season, not quite as much. We'll get to the big boys in just a minute here when we do our regular season over-under. But here's a reminder to anyone that thought that Iowa State might have been a tad overrated and maybe in exiting the Sweet 16 that can kind of fit their overall achievement level and should have been the place that they got booted from the tournament. Iowa State last season was 6th in wins above bubble. Okay, so to their schedule that they played top to bottom, and I'm not dismissing the fact that they had a bunch of patsies. They weren't the only one, but Iowa State's non-con was atrocious. It was ranked 345 in the country per KenPom, so it was very near the bottom. I get all that, but it still won 16 games in the toughest conference in the country against Big 12 opponents, and it's a little bit of a tricky gambit. Like, if you're going to absolutely load up on cupcakes, and I think there's going to be a couple of coaches that are going to try and do that and just see if they can go ahead and smash opponents by 30 plus points that are quad 4s, the way that ISU was doing. Go ahead and try and see if it works for you. But ISU was 6th in performance against his schedule and wins above bubble. Okay. And we talked about this recently in a non-shoot-around episode about how wins above bubble is now going to be added to the team sheets. It's a really important progression for the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee and how it goes about evaluating resumes and putting teams into the tournament or where they seed them. ISU did wonderful against the schedule it had. Yes, there was a lot of just gunk on it where you're like, I got no interest in watching them play another terrible team from a low major conference. But because they were in such a strong league and because specifically they performed well, won the Big 12 tournament, got to that 2 seed, I didn't have an issue with it. I'll be interested to see if they're able to duplicate that again against the fodder in the non-con. They are playing in a big-time MTE, which we'll get to in just a second there. But I think last season, this team, more than Houston and more some other teams that were pointed out, particularly in the Big 12, became really a big-time target. And in my opinion, a lot of that didn't stand to hold water because it just wound up it put its money where its mouth was when it came to conference play, GP. And if you do that, then I don't have an issue with the non-conference scheduling. If you have a few more stumbles, then I don't want to hear it. So you are wagering a certain amount, but it was because they played as well as they did that they were able to overcome everything and get that 2 seed, which was a high point of contention on Selection Sunday because they beat out a couple other close would-be teams, but ultimately it was their quad 1 numbers and their performance in the Big 12 that got it done.
Yeah, if I were an Iowa State season ticket holder, I would want them to schedule differently because I don't want to go watch them play totally overwhelmed teams more often than not in November and December. But just as somebody who has to evaluate basketball teams as the season unfolds, Gonzaga needs to schedule a different way than Iowa State does or any Big 12 school does. And so I'll be skeptical of you, or I can be skeptical of you when you're beating up on nobody in November, December. But if you go into the Big 12 and you do what they did last season, then the skepticism goes away. Like, you're proving that you could have challenged yourself more aggressively in the non-league. You just didn't, but it doesn't have any impact on what type of team you are. Like, whatever you think the argument is for or against scheduling a non-league, what Iowa State showed last season is that once they got into their conference schedule, they were undeniably one of the best teams in the country. It showed up in wins of a bubble. It showed up in the efficiency numbers. It showed up in the conference standings. It showed up in every way it can show up. So I never really understood like making them the face of they played nobody in the non-league, because in the league it didn't matter at all. They proved to be great, or at least really, really good. Like, if you want to make that case about somebody, you make the case about somebody who doesn't beat anybody in the non-league, but they, are ranked 15th in the country the entire time. Then they get in their league and they fall apart. Point to them. But Iowa State, that was a bad place to point. I don't care what they did in the non-league. Once they got into undeniably the best league in the country, they handled themselves very, very well and consistently with almost no stretches of concern throughout the whole thing.
Without a doubt. Be interested to see how they perform front to back in the non-con this year, and then how that transfers to conference play. It's a pretty big task, but at least they do have a few more notable games in non-con play this upcoming season. There's still plenty of low major fodder, don't get me wrong, but this is actually the 3rd straight summer shoot-around that we were talking about, a team that's going to go play in the Maui Invitational. So Iowa State's involved. And so, yes, that means that 3 of the top 6 teams in the country are going out to Lahaina there. As a reminder, in addition to Iowa State, we don't have the bracket or the matchups just yet. Or at least at the time of this taping. Traditionally, those matchups do get released in August. So you got Iowa State, Connecticut's going to be there, North Carolina, Auburn, Michigan State, Dayton, Colorado, and Memphis. So it's a pretty strong field there. We'll see how ISU can do. You're going to have at least 2 of those teams obviously be exiting with at least 1 loss. You could have a situation where multiple top 10 teams, or at least one top 10 team, heads back to the mainland going 1 and 2. That'll be pretty intriguing to see how that develops there. And then the other non-con games of note, GP, December 4th, they play Marquette in the Big 12 Big East battle. I mentioned Shaka earlier in the episode. So 2 coaches that were hired in the same year, and maybe the 2 best coaches that were hired in that cycle at their current schools there. It's pretty awesome. That is going to be at Hilton. Big time game. Love that kind of stuff. Big 12 Big East battle is really giving us some good matchups there. And then December 12th, as always, they play Iowa. This year they are on the road going against Iowa. Hawkeyes I think they have some questions. I don't think they were sniffing GP's top 25 and 1. Nevertheless, it's a road game and a big time annual rivalry series. Those teams obviously only meet once, being that they're not in the same conference. So those are your notable games. 5 notable non-con games for Iowa State. And then in the Big 12 GP, they are home and homes with Arizona. Hello. UCF, we'll see. But you got to travel down to Florida there. Colorado, we'll see. Home and home with Kansas. Home and home with Kansas State. They only have to host. They get Baylor in their building. They don't go to Baylor. They get BYU in their building. We'll see what BYU is. They don't go to BYU. They get Cincinnati, could be a tournament contender. Don't have to go to Cincinnati. TCU, I think, will be down. They host them. In Utah, I don't think it'll be a tournament team. They host them. They have to go and play at Arizona State. We'll see. At Houston, that's a toughie. At Oklahoma State in year 1 under Steve Lutz. At Texas Tech, could be tricky, and then at West Virginia. It's the Big 12. It's absolutely loaded. This seems to be like it will probably be among the 3 or 4 toughest of all Big 12 teams in terms of how the rotation works there. So with all that considered, it is the Big 12, and we do have, we got a lot of league games and some notable non-cons. I set the over-under here I said it at 23.5. I'll let you go first. I think you're bound to go over with this.
Disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful. That's the Big 12 is going to be an absolute beast again, and you know they're taking L's in league play. So I said it at 23.5.
That's disrespectful.
It's not.
I mean,
I'm like Vegas over here. I'm looking to just give you the most accurate representation of the most likely outcome in the regular season for the Iowa State Cyclones. ISU fans, as a reminder, if you're just dialing for this only episode, we are not trying to predict Big 12 play or NCAA tournament play. It's how many wins you have at the end of the regular season. I'm saying over-under is 23.5 on 31 games.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah.
I mean, my God. Thank God Johnny Orr's not coaching. You'd probably had it at 14.
You're saying that about Johnny. I think I may still have it 23.5 with Johnny Orr.
That's disrespectful to both Johnny and TJ then.
You sure? You got Johnny Orr is no longer the best coach after 3 years. So
it's over. It's over for him.
Yeah.
It's over for him. He had a good run, but it's over for Johnny Orr. TJ Otzelberger.
All right, reverse math. Let's go.
All right. Well, let's first off, remind me, are we doing 20 league games or 18?
I thought Big 12 was going to 20. Hold on.
Okay. They should.
Well, I'll do the math right here, the back of the napkin math, because you got home and aways 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Who do we appreciate?
11, 12,
that's a cheer.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, they got 20 league games. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a debate though. They went to 20. I think someone to go back to 18. So this is not like permanent, but I think they will stick at 20. SEC is the only high major still holding out, I think, at 18.
Okay, I'm gonna go 13-7 in the league because, to your point, the league is ridiculous.
Okay, look at this. Look at you already.
All right, the league's ridiculous. I'm gonna go 13-7 in the league.
Not disrespectful. Take it back.
And that's a top. No, I'm gonna keep saying that. It's a top 3 finish in the Big 12, but the league's ridiculous. So that's 7. and then I'm gonna do two non-league losses. Wow. So that's 9. So that takes me to what?
Woo! You got 22-9.
Oh my God! I take that back.
This is what you do. You're not taking it back.
No, I don't want to.
22-9. You have always thought TJ Otzelberger was a clown.
I don't want to speak. No, I take it back. I 31-0. I want to be 31-0.
No. You're not doing that. Seriously, you said 22-9. I'll let you
to do that.
Adjust for maybe one outcome.
Okay. I want to go to 15-5 in the league.
15-5?
I want to go to 16-4 in the league.
You're not going to 16-4.
I want 17-3 in the league.
Yeah.
I don't want to not believe in the Cyclones.
Yeah.
That was
you got the 6th ranked team in the country going 22-9 as a reminder. It seems hard it's a hard circle to square right there.
No, I take it back. I take back what I said.
Okay.
31-0.
No. What is the prediction here? 23-8?
What did you set the over under at?
23.5.
Yeah, 24 then.
You called it disrespectful, and then you gave him 1.5 fewer wins, by the way.
My iPhone.
Yeah,
my iPhone malfunctioned.
So
something happened.
Yeah. I have them going 23-8, by the way. So I have them under 23.5, but I have them going 23-8, and I've got them going 14-6 in the Big 12, taking 2 non-con L's. Either they take 2 in Maui or they take 1 in Maui, and then they're either getting picked off at home by a good Marquette team, or they're losing in a rivalry game at Iowa. So I got them 23-8. GP's got them. What did you say? 20-11.
31-0. 31-0.
Yeah,
I believe this is the greatest coach in Iowa State men's basketball history.
That's
who is married to best I can tell, the greatest Iowa State women's basketball player in history. I mean, what are we even talking about?
We're talking about, according to you, we're talking about a 19-12 team.
God. That's disrespect. That's on me. I apologize to TJ and Allison. I should have never done that.
Yeah.
My math just didn't work.
I do think that is a show.
I'm disappointed in myself. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys for watching and listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.